can begin a new chapter, Chapter 13, Diversity for Sustenance. So first, look at this picture which was given in your textbook. Here you can see a lot of living organisms and also you can see some non-living factors. So which are the living organisms that you can see in this picture? Yes, it includes eagle, snake, tortoise, cow, butterflies, dragonfly, frog, etc. A lot of living organisms are there in this picture. And which are the non-living factors in this picture? Yes, you can see soil, water, sunlight, all these are non-living factors. So we can call the living factors as biotic factors. So biotic, abiotic. Biotic means living and abiotic means non-living. So the term biotic means living. So in this picture you can see a lot of biotic factors which include the organisms which I said before and also the plants, trees, shrubs, etc. And abiotic factors include the non-living factors. It is also given in this picture which include water, soil, air, sunlight, etc. These are non-living factors, which means they are abiotic factors. So we can see that all the living organisms on earth depends on both biotic and abiotic factors. So how they depends on biotic factors? So first we shall learn how the organisms depends on biotic factors.
Look at this picture. Here you can see the interdependence of various organisms for their food. Let us find out some examples. Here you can see the fishes are depending on aquatic plants for its food. Then crane and duck depends on fishes. Then frog catches the grasshopper and snake eat frog. Also you can see a cow grazing there and eagle flying up with a snake for its food. So you understood that all organisms depends on other organisms or biotic factors, which means living factors for food. Okay, now let me ask one question. Does all these animals depends only on biotic factors? The answer is no, because all organisms depends on both biotic and abiotic factors. Then which are these abiotic factors or non-living factors? Yes, it include sunlight, which is used by plants for photosynthesis, then air, which is used by both plants and animals for breathing, then water, it is also used by both plants and animals. Then soil, for making a shelter. Plants need soil for its growth. So all organisms depends on both biotic and abiotic factors.
So from this picture now you understood that how the organisms depends on biotic factors or living factors. So for example you have seen that the eagle depends on snake for its food, then cow grazes the grass and it depends on grass for its food. Then you can see the frog is feeding the insects, which means it depends on the insects for its food. Just like that you can see the fishes depending on aquatic plants for their food. So you can see several such examples on which how the organisms depends on living factors or how the organisms depends on biotic factors. But the organisms not only depends on biotic factors but they also depends on abiotic factors. So which are the abiotic factors on which the living organisms depends on? Which are the abiotic factors on which we human beings depends on? It includes sunlight, air, water, soil, etc. So we are depending on all these abiotic factors for our needs. So the abiotic factors include So the abiotic factors include sunlight, air, water, soil. And we know that sunlight is very essential for plants for preparing their food. Then air is required by both plants and animals for breathing. Then water is very essential for both plants and animals. We are using water for drinking. Then soil. Soil is also very essential for plants for getting their nutrients, for water, and also we human beings need soil for making our shelter, so and so. So all these abiotic factors are very essential, or we can say that all living organisms depends on all these abiotic factors or non-living factors. So now we understood that all organisms depends on other organisms and also depends on their surroundings, which means all organisms interact with other organisms and also interact with their surroundings. So this study of the interaction of organisms with other organisms and also organisms with their surroundings is known as ecology. So ecology is a branch of biology. We know that zoology is a branch of biology. Then botany is a branch of biology. In zoology we are learning about animals, and in botany we are learning about plants. Just like that, ecology is also a branch of biology, and in ecology we are learning about the interaction between organisms and also the interaction between organisms with their surroundings. And the interdependence between a few organisms forms the food chain. You have already studied this in your lower classes. So here I will give an example, a small example for a food chain. So children, the interdependence between a few organisms forms the food chain. So here you can see an example. Grass. Grass is eaten by grasshopper. Then grasshopper is eaten by frog, and frog is eaten by snake. So this is a small food chain. Several such food chains are there on this earth. A numerous number of such small food chains are there on this earth. And all these food chains combines together to form a food web. So food chain is the smallest form that shows the interdependence between organisms. And several such food chains combines together to form a large food web. So here you can see an example of a food web. Okay children, now we shall check out this food web in detail, and we shall find out which are the producers, which are the primary consumers, secondary consumers and tertiary consumers in this food web.
Here you can see an example of a food web. So before studying the details of food web, you need to understand that sun is the primary source of energy in the living world. The green plants make use of this energy for the preparation of their food. So they are called producers. So in a food web, the producers comes at the basic level or the first tropic level. So in this food web, you can see that grass, paddy and trees comes at the first tropic level. Then the organisms that directly depends on plants are called primary consumers. In this food web, you can see that rabbit, grasshopper and deer directly depends on grass for its food. Then you can see rat, grasshopper directly depends on paddy for its food. Then finally, squirrel and grasshopper directly depends on trees for its food. So, all of them are primary consumers. The organisms that feed on primary consumers are called secondary consumers. In this food web, you can see that snake and eagle consumes rat. So, rat is a primary consumer. Then, snake also consumes squirrel. Squirrel is also a primary consumer. Then you can see frog and lizard consumes grasshopper. Grasshopper is also a primary consumer. Then you can see tiger consumes deer. Deer is a primary consumer. So we understood that the secondary consumers are snake, eagle, frog, lizard and tiger. Then the organisms that feed on secondary consumers are called tertiary consumers. So in this food web, eagle and snake are tertiary consumers.
So the plants which depends on sunlight for preparing their food are known as producers. So what are called producers? The plants which depends on sunlight for preparing their food are known as producers. Then the organisms that depends on producers directly or indirectly are known as consumers. So what are called consumers? The organisms that directly or indirectly depends on producers are known as consumers. So these consumers are of two types and these consumers are of three types. So consumers are of three types: primary consumers, secondary consumers and tertiary consumers.